This is a memoration. It's so beautiful, right? From the outside, perfect. But what if you looked closer? Imagine you were there, flying with them. What would you see? Thousands of weights, beating, adjusting, trying to survive. Now, there's one thing that we all here have in common, and that is that we all a bit like these birds. We soar, we move fast, and if we look closer, we're also afraid. And even as I'm speaking to you right now, some of you are going through some scary moments. Some of you are leading teams through change and turmoil. Some of you are facing something deeply personal. A diagnosis, anxiety, depression, and loss of a business, and loss of a relationship. Some of you are even dealing with the grief of someone that you love. And yet, you're here. You showed up, often carrying more than people see. And so I want you to think back right now to a moment that felt scary. What was that moment? What pulled you through it? Well, it wasn't certainty. It was courage. And if there's ever a time when courage truly mattered, it's now. Every generation faces moments that demand courage. And for us, that moment is here. In a time where global uncertainty has reached levels that very few of us have ever experienced. But here in Brazil, the momentum is rising. You can feel the hunger, the ambition to lead and not just to follow, to drive innovation. And right here in Rio, the BRICS Summit, now Rio Innovation Week, are putting the city on the global stage. And so, you, the innovators, the creators, the builders in this room, you aren't just here to see what's next. We're here to shape it. And that takes courage. Because it takes courage to drive change. It takes courage to innovate despite the risk. And it takes courage to lead teams despite uncertainty. And it takes courage to act before others believe. That is why, Eric, I think the microphone is gone. Can you hear me? And that is why I'm here today. For the past decade, I've explored courage, and I've explored one question. What makes us brave? I've studied bravery, I've studied courage from Fortune 500 boardrooms to war zones to understand how courage impacts the way that we lead and live. And so over the next 20 minutes together, my hope is for you to leave with 3 core insights on how you can build bravery and face whatever uncertainty is still ahead. Now you'll find some clues in the story that I'm about to share with you. Salvatore's story takes place in Sicily, a land of incredible beauty. Incredible beauty, but also contrast. Here, the Sicilian mafia controlled this land for many decades. A land where going against them meant risking your life. But I want to take you back a few decades into the 1940s. Salvatore grows up in a small village called Riesi, really known for two things. One, the mafia. Two, the sulfur mines. Salvatore's childhood is happy. But many of the kids his age are forced to work inside of these mines in brutal conditions. Child slavery went unpunished for many decades. Why? Because the mafia controls the mines. Now, Salvatore, as he grows into his teenage years, he gets passionate about politics. And he's only 17 years old when he gets asked to speak at this big national conference. And he wants to speak out about the mistreatment, but he's threatened not to. On stage, he decides to speak. He speaks up about the oppression, he speaks up about the mines, and he speaks up against the mafia. He receives big applause, but when he returns home, a car bomb explodes. The mafia is angered with his defiance and almost kill him. Salvatore needs to vanish. He disappears. He leaves everything and everyone he loves behind. Only years later, his family received this postcard from a small town in Germany where he has to disappear to and build everything again from scratch. Sorry, the monitor is working. But it's also in Germany where he falls in love. He falls madly in love and decides to have a family. Now, fast forward a few decades, Salvatore is now on his deathbed. And he's sharing this story, this exact same story, with his son, just moments before they have to say goodbye to each other forever. That son was me. Salvatore was my father. The word courage in its Latin root comes from coro, cœur in French, corazón, cuore. In Portuguese, coração, coragem. My dad Salvatore had a huge coração. And losing a parent, as many of you know, it really hits hard. And losing my dad was so painful, I decided to do everything to distract myself. Now, the thing with distraction is, it really works. Until it doesn't. And I got sick. Really sick. 2 years, extreme nerve pain, 3 spine surgeries, and suddenly I was face to face with death. And in that darkness, one question kept arising. What makes us brave? That question became my journey. A journey to understand what courage really looks like, not just in theory, but in real life. And with a team of National Geographic filmmakers, we started to travel the world to meet some of the bravest people around the planet. We traveled through war zones and cocaine trafficking routes. We went into maximum security prisons and met with refugees, genocide survivors, whistleblowers, and indigenous leaders protecting sacred land, and soldiers risking their life for peace. And all of this to understand the anatomy of courage. And everywhere we went, we didn't just hear stories, we met heroes, unsung heroes that had turned pain and fear into bravery and into meaning. And from all of these incredible human beings, we distilled three core components of courage. Three patterns across crises and across cultures that I believe are essential for anyone who wants to lead, drive change, or live in these turbulent times. And these are the three core components that I'm about to share with you now. Courage is not an absence of fear. But we somehow believe that courageous people are fearless. The truth, they feel fear like anyone else. The difference, they get intimate with it. Aristotle wrote, "We become brave by doing brave actions." And that means that courage isn't a trait, it's not a fixed personality that some of you have and others don't. It's something that we can all build. And when things fall apart, when things get really scary, when our back is against the wall, and you all know what I'm talking about because you've all been there, that is when some of the deepest form of courage is born. And so ask yourself, what was that defining moment of fear for you? When was your back against the wall? And then, how did it shape you? And how did it make you more courageous? Maybe it was a crisis at work. Maybe it was your health. Maybe it was the fear of losing someone that you loved. How did it make you more courageous? And now to the second component. And here Eric will need the music like... So watch this. The second component is purpose. The kind of purpose that comes from showing up for others. Now watch this. Inside the barrel of a wave, time stretches. It's roaring, terrifying. But the surfers here know that you ride it anyway. Once upon a time in a small beach town in Saira called Parakuru, a young girl lived in a shack by the sea. Life was hard, but every morning she would go to the ocean to surf with no wetsuit, no coach, just a board made out of scrap wood and a dream to provide her family with a better life. She kept training, entered competitions and started winning and winning until soon people would start whispering, "That girl, wow, she's unstoppable." But then she kept winning, but the sponsors didn't look her way. The judges praised her, the fans loved her, but the brands, they kept saying, "You're not pretty enough. You're not marketable. Sorry." Imagine you put everything and still you hear, "You are not enough." Not because of your talent or because of your effort, but because of how you look.
Eu não sou modelinho, eu não sou bonitinha, Eu sou surfista profissional. As marcas de surf, eles estão pensando muito a parte feminina, é muito modelo e surfista no mesmo tempo. Então, para quem não é tipo modelinho e acaba não tendo patrocínio como o meu resultado, acaba ficando de fora, é descartável.
To keep competing, she sold her apartment here in Rio, her car, bred puppies, and then came the injuries. One knee, then another, and another, and another. 4 surgeries, rejection, silence. But that girl, she didn't quit. She kept showing up. Until one day, that little girl from Paracuru rose. From a shack by the sea to the Olympic stage. From rejected to legend. Her name, Silvana Lima. Brazil's greatest female surfer. And she didn't do it for the glory. She didn't do it for the applause. She did it for her family, for the girls watching, for everyone who's ever felt they didn't belong, for the next generation. All of us, we face the waves of fear, of failure. And sometimes we fall. But Silvana, she reminds us that we can all ride, even when we're afraid. But not for ourselves. The word hero in its Latin root comes from servo, servant. Heroes, they show up for others, for their communities, their teams, the people they love. They infuse others with courage long after they're gone. So let me ask you this. Who do you show up for? And now to the third component that we saw across all of these incredibly courageous people. And it's the willingness to act. This is the last vacation that we went on together as a family. And my dad, he had this habit of giving me unsolicited advice, lots of it, which usually used to go through one ear and then straight out of the other. But there's one piece of advice that always stuck with me. In Italian, it's this, it's testa giù e vai. Put your head down and just go. And if there's one guy who did exactly that, it's this guy here, Mamoudou Gassama. Now pay close attention, because this guy has a lot to teach us. We're in Paris. Gassama is walking the streets, and he sees this scene. There's a 4-year-old boy who has fallen off the 6th floor balcony and is now hanging onto dear life 2 stories below with his tiny hands about to slip off. Everyone is in panic. Everyone freezes. Gassama, he sees this and he starts running, and watch what he does next. He later tells the interviewers, and this is key, if you think too long, whether you go or whether you don't go, you never go. But what the world didn't know is that Gassama had prepared for that moment. He had trained for that moment because he had crossed the Sahara Desert. He had survived imprisonment and torture to leave his country, Mali. He braves the Mediterranean Sea, and just like the millions of refugees around the world, leaving your country, leaving your family, leaving everything behind to face prejudice and uncertainty, to risk it all for the bleak hope of a better future. Well, that may well be one of the most courageous things a human being can do. And so remember Aristotle. We become brave by doing brave actions. Gassama had a long history of brave actions that made him prepared. And what I've learned is that the opposite of courage is not being a coward. The opposite of courage is the failure to act. Courage is a choice. Courage is a habit. And courage must be trained. And so, as we gather here today at Reinnovation Week, we do so to do important work that the world is counting on. Because I believe that we, the Humanara community, we leaders and change makers, we creatives and innovators, we mothers and fathers and members of our communities, we have a duty. We have a duty to step forward and lead when others are hesitant, to speak up when others choose silence, to take risks when others doubt. We are here to make a difference. And if we don't, then we deprive the world of something. And so what is our reward if we do all of this? We do it so we can infuse others with courage. We do it to make our ancestors proud. We do it to make our families proud. We do it to make our future generations proud. We do it to make this planet a better place. And to do so, it doesn't require superhuman acts. It doesn't. Delivering bad news to your team takes courage. Asking for help takes courage. Getting up in the morning when you're depressed takes courage. Being a leader who says, I screwed up, I'm sorry, takes a lot of courage. Getting out of a job, out of a business, out of a marriage that isn't working anymore takes enormous courage. Facing an illness, facing the death of a person that you love so much is ultimate courage. And so everybody here, everyone, has gone to bed one night or another with fear or despair or grief. And yet we've all of us, are risen and faced what we had to face with bravery, mighty bravery that sometimes we didn't even know we had inside of us. So don't forget, you've all been courageous. Many, many times. That's what's brought you here. We've all been heroes. We just sometimes forget. One last thing. There's one last message. And I want to leave you with. This is the last picture that I took with my dad. If you think that at the end of your life, you will have the clarity, the strength, and the time to do the work of a lifetime, then you're taking a very big gamble. So, don't wait. Don't wait. The time to lead with courage is now. History is being written right now. And the world needs leaders to show up now. And we choose to be those leaders. We choose to be heroes. We choose to leave a legacy. And if we don't, well, that's on us. So, today, what will you choose? Obrigado.